Jimmy's Jam Box. Keep jamming. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jam Box. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all of the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
Peace, everyone. This is Luvjonez from A Beat Happening and other events in Portland.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about, like where you're from, what you do, give us that like Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Yeah. So I do a lot. Originally from Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
So I know we were talking off camera before, but when you mentioned Tennessee, I was like, oh, I know.
Actually, I lived in Kentucky for like a year and a half when I was younger.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So small world, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, also, can we have you move the mic down just a little bit?
Yeah.
I want people to be able to see your face. There we go.
Yeah, originally from Kentucky. I've lived all over the U.S., Wisconsin, Washington, D.C., New York.
Oh, hell yeah.
And out here. So, yeah, traveled all over the world too. But, yeah, I make beats, beat maker, producer, go by Luvjonez, Luvjonez.
Hell yeah.
All streaming platforms. But I also run a beat maker and producer showcase called A Beat Happening. And then we just finished literally yesterday with the 6 years, with the 6-year anniversary show. Yeah. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's brief intro. I'm sure we'll get into the rest of it, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And what got you into music initially? Like, what was the starting point for you?
I think I've always been drawn to music, but I had a friend in high school, and we like to just get together and record noise.
Okay.
Like we just like bang on coffee pots, or we had no instruments. We were all broke. But we would just, we had like a boombox tape recorder thing, and we would just, I don't know, just make noise.
Yeah.
Just like bang on things. He had a guitar sometimes if his brother was in town or something, but like we would record that, and then we just had like cassettes and some digital stuff of us just making noise. And I think that process, I was always kind of obsessed with the sound creation process. Not so much lyrics. I don't, even though I sometimes think like a singer-songwriter, I never write.
I think it's important to have that mindset as somebody who produces, but it doesn't mean that has to be like your thing.
Oh yeah. No, I it's like how I produce is like usually I'll like mumble rap to myself because I know like when things break and like how an MC might use it, but I have never attempted to rap.
Yeah, no, I'm good with words. I like music, but I don't have a very musical voice. I don't know if you noticed this.
Same.
That is, I sound good when I talk, and I will stick to that. Y'all are welcome.
Yeah.
All right, and then this next question. This is one we ask early. It's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. It's a lot of fun. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
Oh man, I forgot. Yeah, you do ask this. What was it? I think it was like two. The one that sticks out is like "License to Ill" by Beastie Boys.
Okay.
That was one that I was like, I always had to ask my mom for permission to get everything if it had explicit lyrics. So there was a lot of trial and error. Like I'd get something, listen to it in the house. If she hated it, she'd take it back. So, but after a while, she just let it be. But I think that was the first one that I like bought and kept, and
she got tired of spending the gas going back. She's like, it's cheaper to leave the CD.
Trying to rationalize with the record store people that like, I bought the wrong thing for my son or whatever. But yeah.
Okay. And then what was the first show that you ever went to? That was like one you like wanted to go to.
Oh man. Smoke and Grooves tour.
Okay.
Which had like, it was like a lineup of everybody I loved at the time. It was like Busta Rhymes, Nas, Lauryn Hill,
Oh shit.
the Fugees,
Shit.
Ziggy Marley, who I wasn't really into, but I was like, whatever, keep adding on this lineup.
Yeah, like, oh no, good music.
Yeah.
Darn it.
Yeah, and Cypress Hill was there. It was like everything that I listened to in one show, and I was like, must go to this.
Yeah, it was the who's who of it all.
Yeah.
Even like the people you weren't like incredibly crazy about seeing, you knew they were going to be good there.
Yeah.
And that makes
they
the
wouldn't
world.
be like up for very long. So
Yeah.
you knew like, 20, 30 minutes.
You knew they'd only be playing the bangers.
Right.
Yeah, those classics for sure.
Right. Or just stuff that I'm like, I'm sure somebody here likes this. I'm waiting for the next one.
Yep. That's a good time to like use the bathroom, grab a beer.
Right. Go hit the snacks.
Hell yeah. All right, now let's go ahead and let's get on into you as the artist, as the creator.
Yeah.
And we're going to get the easy one out of the way. How did you pick your name?
I mean, it seems like it would be easy, but like there's multi layers to it. My real name is Jonas, so like to me, like Luvjonez was it's a joke kind of because people didn't know the name Jonas when I was a kid, and they would read it as Jones. Like if I had it written down.
Gotcha.
And so me and my brother would kind of joke around, like he would call me Jones all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a movie called Luvjonez, so like I think by default people just kind of push that together.
Yep.
And then like one of my favorite MCs was Method Man, and he has a line in one of his songs where he mentions Luvjonez. So it just kind of kept popping up a lot in my life, and I was like, my original name that I did not give myself was one of my friends called me DJ Curfew because I would DJ events with him all the time, and I'd immediately leave. I just didn't hang out, and he was like, "Do you have a curfew or something?" I'm like,
"That's funny."
And I was like, "No, I just never gave myself a name," and so I joked with that for a while, but then Luvjonez was like nostalgic for me because I would think back about like how people used to butcher my name, but also all those associations with it. So
yeah,
and it fits the vibe of the stuff that I do. Like it's pretty chill, introspective stuff that felt like a good name. I'm not like Beatmaster 3000 or something. Like I try to like make it a little vague but interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, apparently, and one day I'll stop announcing this, but probably not today. Apparently, I do this thing where I tell people how cool I think their name is. Fortunately, it's only ever been people whose names I think are cool, so I guess that's a good start. But I like it because, A, the backstory now makes it way cooler. It's cool that you could take this like thing that I imagine was an irritation when you were younger. You know what I mean? Like, as a kid, you're like, why did you say my name wrong?
Right.
Like, I get that for sure. And so, like, it like taking that and like building it into the name, that's very like, that's owning it. That's making it yours, instead of making it something that like bothers you.
Yeah.
And it's easy to remember. It looks good. Like that's a big thing I point out. Like a lot of people don't take the time to like put their name on paper or like say it out loud 1,000 ways and see how it sticks. Like I had a guy the other day, his name is Mark. His band's called The Overthinkers. Or like Overthinking, I think is what. Don't quote me. I'm sorry, Mark, but something along those lines. And he kept using it in conversation, but he would refer to the band. But because of the way the word worked, it felt too natural in conversation as the word.
Yeah.
And so he'd say it, and I would have to like literally do that to like deconstruct the sentences he said and went band name, not thing. Boom.
Right.
So a name could go a long way.
Yeah, and that was something, and I was like, I know I can stick with this because it's partially my name.
Yeah.
So, or like, connected to my name. So, but, it's funny because I thought it would make it easy. And because I spell it weird, not how you would normally spell that phrase.
Yeah.
But the Z really throws people at the end. So people will write Luvjonez with an S because they know me as Jonas, and so
that makes sense.
So I'm like, I kind of complicated, but it makes me laugh because I'm like, I tried to make it easy, and it just got more.
You should tell people it's Luvjonez with a U and a Z.
Yeah,
and just watch them do like,
play
the Wordle of it all.
There's so many emails and like text where I had to correct something. Somebody will put me on a flyer, and I'm like, it's with a Z. But whatever, I don't get mad about it. It's just funny.
Yeah. I mean, do you have like a PNG that you send people for flyers? Like, do you have like a thing that you can give them to put on the flyer?
I should, but no.
I found that that's really helpful for those kinds of things, especially if you're like booking bills. Like if you're on somebody else's bill, that's really helpful because then it's like, then not only are they using your thing, but that doesn't happen.
Right.
Like then everybody, like, especially everybody who identifies your logo already will be like, oh, I know exactly who that is. And new people, as long as it's legible, will be like, oh, Luvjonez. Yeah, I dig that name. Let's go check it out. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So there you go.
No, that's a good idea though. It's funny because the logo that I do use, I intentionally do put on everything so that people can navigate all the things and look for that and be like, oh, that's his.
Yeah. So just start sending that.
But I never send it to a flyer.
Yeah. Start sending that out to people. There you go. A little business tip from Jimmy.
Right.
All right. And let's go ahead. Let's get back into it. Tell us about your writing process when it comes to like putting a beat together. And let's focus on like when you get inspired. What are some of the things? And I feel like producers have this a little more than like, like rap artists and like people are just like, I'm going to write a guitar on or like a song on my guitar. But what are some of the things that you do every time in the beginning? How do you get into the process?
I mean, there are two kind of methods that I've noticed, is that I listen to a lot of music and I have a lot of musician friends that'll send me like things that they're doing that I can kind of use as source material. So a lot of times it's me reacting to a sample.
That's fair.
Or something that they've sent me, with no guidance. I'll just be like, how do I hear this? But I am very much sample driven. So like I just consume tons of music.
Yeah.
And if something gives me an idea, it's funny. My partner is always like, you never really play your stuff in the house. Like I'm always have headphones on when I'm making stuff. Cause I know that to hear me making things is really annoying to me sometimes.
Yeah, no, been there.
Yeah.
Been there.
So I just loop things until I hear something. And I know that I'm like, you really want to hear this?
Snare sample.
Oh yeah. Anything. Drum loops. Exactly. Right.
Wait.
Yeah, and that's the type of stuff, and I'm like, I want you to hear it, but I know that so much of this is annoying.
Yeah.
Especially like chopping up drum breaks and things like that, or even just making my own drum breaks and stuff like that. So the two methods are like me reacting to a sample and then me creating a drum pattern and then listening for something and then like chopping things to fit that. So those are the two that stand out the most, but I always think it's different, but it always kind of starts similar ways.
I mean, it's there's nothing wrong with grabbing the same first thing first. You know what I mean? Like if you do something different with it every time, but like it's good to have a jumping off point. You know what I mean? Just like it's good to have a template project.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you put all of your stuff in the same place, like starting up that same template project counts as something you do every time, even if it changes from there.
Exactly. Yeah. And I know we were talking off camera a little bit, but like I listen to a lot of interviews, and sometimes that some phrase, some words that somebody said, a sentence, even a word combo, I'm like,
it just inspires you.
Yeah. And that'll spark something, and then sometimes I'll name the song after that. Even if no one knows that, I know that.
Yeah.
I don't be like,
I assume that half the song names in the world have like an underlying purpose, and then half of them are just names.
Yeah. That's why it's always funny when I see like a beat tape of all untitled, because I'm like, I get that, but like
you had a reason.
Yeah. There's something in that mix that made you inspired, even if you don't want to admit it. I'm like,
that and a song name can still make a difference, even if it's just for a beat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't call it like Trap Fire Star Killer 26. You know what I mean? Like you gotta look at that and be like, I mean, I guess I get it, but what is it?
Yeah.
But like, like I have to imagine that like the coolest beats always had some kind of cool name attached to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I find really inspiring too, is like, however I create it, however I make it and title it, sometimes MCs or vocalists or whatever will find that song, use that title as a launching point, write a whole song around it, and then send it back to me, and sometimes have the same title as the instrumental, which is funny to me, but I'm like, that's how much power naming things is.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, and it does fit the vibe. It's kind of like based on that, but the fact that that just the title can inspire somebody. And I'm like, So I'm very conscious that I might have repeated myself in the hundreds of things that I've made, but it's fun to see how that comes back to you too.
Oh, definitely. Well, that it's more recently, obviously, the like bringing in, not like recently, like the last 2 years, but like in more modern music, the bringing in the like sample from like, you know, like a noir movie or like just a really inspirational moment, like the, you know, the chill beats to relax to, and like the lo-fi and stuff of it all.
Right.
Like the introduction and addition of like just spoken word as the beat.
Yeah.
Really, I think it created an interesting avenue for just that exact thing, the opportunity to like hear something that is not musical at all, but is still like it is something that you like process because, you know, it's a sentence, and to find that inspiration as like a writer usually would, or like somebody who would be like, to introduce that media into it so heavily and let it become a platform of inspiration. That just means literally you're always finding an opportunity for music and everything, and that's really cool.
Yeah, that's part of, and you know, as an instrumental beat maker, I still get hung up in wanting to do like intros and outros and interludes and things like that. And because I consume so many interviews, I'll often just clip little snippets of things that were inspiring and use them for those intros and stuff, just to kind of like set the tone for a project. Even though it's just a beat tape, there's intention there. So it's there's, I don't know, it's a way of incorporating the inspiration but also being inspired by that same thing. I don't know. It's a funny process.
I talked about this on somebody else's episode, so I promise I won't reference this more times after everybody. But the other day I was sitting down with a band called Drift Away, and they were talking about how they tried something for the first time. Like, they've been doing music for a while. They've been putting it together, and they did something for the first time where they had the drummer write all the drums first. So he sat down and just played the drums in the way that his head would imagine the song, like, so thought about the timing, and then afterwards was like, okay, this is where it changes, this is where it changes. And they like sat down and they like listened to it for a second, and they were like, hey, can you change this to this? Because, you know, it was a fairly watered down drum bit, so they was able to, you know, change it quickly. But they were like, if you change this to this, I can actually do this in this spot, and like it can and like they didn't even realize that the whole time they'd been doing it, you know, top down instead of bottom up. And that gave them a whole new roadmap. And they were like, yeah, we're going to start doing this a lot more. And not that it's now they can do both. It's not like they have to stop doing one for the other, but now they have this whole new approach that after years of doing music together, they could just do it differently. They're going to write all new music without having to do anything except choosing who went first. And that's really cool. Like, we said it off camera, how like, you know, it's important to always be learning stuff and trying new things. Music is so malleable. There's so much stuff you can do with it. Yeah. Why would you stop at just what works? You can always go to what works. Right. Try the things that don't work. Be the person who like, and not like don't be afraid to take a chance. Like, yes, like build your foundation, grow your sound, have your thing. That's why people go to you. But why wouldn't you want to try? Like, I mean, come on, like, oh my God. MF Doom had 1,000 names.
Exactly.
And like, just, he was never afraid to put something out. You know what I mean?
And that's so, and he's a popular example, but what I've learned, because I license music for stuff sometimes, what I've learned through doing that is that there's a lot of famous musicians who have alternate IDs that are not well known, that do stuff for commercial and stuff like that. So they like pay themselves with their alternative ID that there's no photos, or they might have like costumes or something. But I'm like, it's interesting how many people do that. They like create a genre, work out of their genre that they're known for and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a common practice. We got any idea you got, there's a place for it.
Well, I mean, there's money in jingles, right? You know, commercials pay way too much
when you can get them.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably why they pay too much, because there's a lot of availability. Got to create that ceiling somehow.
Yeah.
Damn. All right, let's get back to the format though.
Yeah.
And now for this next one, this one's kind of going to be an interesting one. So I'll let you kind of run with it however you would like to from here. But if you had to show somebody one song, and you've got a decent amount out there, but also again, as a producer, like your job is literally to show people your songs and let them pick. But like, let's say out of your most recent album, which I just I had it up, and I'm sorry I forgot the name. I meant to put it on the
Night
thing.
Lights. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say. No, I feel bad
cool.
too.
That's all right.
If you had to pick one song off of that to show somebody, which song would you pick to like kind of like be like, this is what I sound like?
Oh, okay.
And you could choose like if it's like you could do like if it was a client, this is like what I would present. If this was just like somebody who was like, what do you what do you vibe the most with? Let's do one for each of those. Like if somebody was like, oh, I want to pick a beat of yours, like what's the one that you're like, I think this is the one that would grab the most attention, and then what's the one that's just like you love it?
But it's the one that I think for this album is probably this track called Blue City. Which is fairly simple, but I played around with drum fills and drum patterns on that, and I just like how the drums sound on it. And it's like a little more up tempo for a chill song, but the instrumentation is just like a flute and piano and like stuff I rely pretty heavily on, but it kind of works like I don't know. I test it out when I drive around. Sometimes I'll be like, am I tired of this yet? And I'll put it on and be like, no, I still like it.
Dang it, it's still good.
Yeah, that one's a pretty good one. And then like the thing that I love about just making beats is that I can experiment with BPMs or whatever it is. But there's a track called what did I changed the name several times. I think Ain't Done Yet is what I called it. But there's even at the very intro, this is such a nerd stuff. Like, I don't even know if anyone who hears it would even know this, but the first 4 or 8 bars is a different drum break than what is through the rest of the song.
Oh, okay.
But I did it as just kind of like, because the drums that I used on it are the chopped up version of some old EPMD drums.
Mm-hmm.
But I removed a lot of the stuff from it. But the first few bars, for whatever reason, I was like, this would be a fun intro because the drums feel iconic enough that you wouldn't even know that the intro was different. But I was playing around with that, and then it's funny to take drums that are from like throwback stuff and then layer new things on top of it that recontextualize it and make it more mellow and not unrecognizable, because if you know the drums, you'd know it, but that one's pretty exemplary of where I'm trying to go to, I guess. Just messing around with that, but you know. Yeah, just little nerd things that I throw into the album, and I'm like, I might go in this direction, so this will be the first one.
Yeah, it's there in case you need to be like, I did do it already.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you talking about?
Exactly. Feel like you've never used like whatever, the amen break or like something like that. And I'm like, I did.
Yeah,
I hit it in this one song.
Yeah, you just didn't hear it yet. That one's on you.
Right.
Okay, hell yeah. I kind of lost if that was the answer for like the one you like the most, or if that was the one you would show somebody.
Blue City was the one that I would show somebody off of this one. And then I think Ain't Done Yet is like,
okay, there we go.
The version of like where I might go with things.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry.
Oh no, it's sorry. I talked about them very quickly.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you had good answers though, and it's cool that you can kind of have that on lock. You know what I mean? Like, do you remember most of your beats? Like, or is it one of those things where it's like you've gotten to the point now where you're like you can't recall the first like 100?
No, I mean what's funny is I don't remember what I call some stuff.
That's fair.
And I've had people come up and be like, "Oh, I like this one off this one album," and I'm like, I know I named something but I don't remember what it sounds like.
It was called 30 things before that.
Yeah. And that's what sometimes I'll change it as I'm putting it out. I'll change the name on something. But it's funny because somebody will be like, I want to rap to all these. And they'll send me a list just typed out. And I'm like, I don't remember what album this was on. So I have to like dig through my own catalog to find them. And
you just pull up your Spotify. You're like, hold on a second.
Yeah. Sometimes it really throws me because I'm like, the thing that I like about it is that it'll tell me how much they researched things. Like, they'll go way back, like albums that I don't think anybody even knew were out.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, I like this one off of that. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, I don't even know if I have the sessions for that anymore, but I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah. Have you ever remade an old beat that somebody requested because you were like, I could do this better now?
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking about that recently with somebody because they were like, you know, a lot of artists struggle with like when things are finished.
Yeah.
And I was like, who cares? It's yours. You could remake it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
You could make an album of the same sample 20 different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I was telling them too, like, I like to hear the growth process. So even if I know I did something, I'm like, ugh,
Yeah.
I would change that now. I can remake it. And
Yeah.
I have done, I've flipped the same sample again, but I've used, you know, it's a different version of that same sample. And that's a fun way to like test the growth.
Yeah.
And hear the original and be like, I would have used this differently, and then be like, I can use it differently.
Yeah. Once you've used it once, why not?
Once, right? So yeah, I have done it not recently, but every once in a while, I'll hear something and be like, oh, and that reminds me, I sampled the same thing. I want to go redo it now,
Okay.
or something like that.
Hell yeah. All right. Now this is the last question for the artist focus portion, and this one's kind of a dense one. You know, let you know now. But out of all of the parts of making music, and I want you to focus on only the creation portion, so not what comes from it once it's out, but out of all of the parts of making music, what is it the thing that keeps you coming back to it? What is the part of making music that's like you love it the most?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, I'm always like drums are always the thing that I love the sound of different snares. I love like the digging process when you find not even a break, just like a fill on something that I'm like, I've heard it a million times and I've always wanted to use it. But I've never put out a drum kit, and I know a million producers have those, but I have a whole folder of just things that I've ripped from different vinyl or, you know, whatever, like drum fills and intros and stuff like that. That discovery process is probably my favorite part. Like,
Okay.
I revisit it constantly. I'll use the same break or maybe the same snare from a favorite break or something like that. But that part is always like, I don't feel like I hit writer's block that often. But when I go and listen to like that folder of stuff, it usually jars something loose, and I'll be like,
okay.
It's just fun. Even if it feels repetitive.
Yeah.
That I'm like, there's something in there. It's just like a little like, oh, I forgot about that.
Hell yeah. I just from the interview so far, I really appreciate your attention to not so much the little details, but the pieces. It seems like your focus is like you mentioned how like one of the things you love the most is specifically the sounds of the drums and the kits coming together. Like the way that you describe how you approach music, the things that you like mention just as like the things you're interested in. I think it's really cool that it doesn't feel like there's like a piece that's a priority. You're not like, I need that banging hook or I need the loudest this. Like, you look at all of the parts as like a piece, like the things that complete it, not like the thing that is needed to like only make that hit. Yeah. So I think it's really cool. And as somebody who like also like I dive music, like that's my whole pastime. I have hundreds of episodes that show it, but like there is that, like I notice, and somebody else said this on there, so I wish I could remember who said it. One day I'm going to go back and dialogue all this. But somebody was like, when I listen to music a lot, I feel good.
Yeah.
And when I don't listen to music a lot, it's not that it makes me feel bad. It's just that I feel less good. And after a while, I go, why don't I feel good for a while? And then I realize it's because I wasn't listening to music. And I was like, man, that's something.
Yeah, no, and I've said it to my partner. I don't know how many times I've said it. I don't get interviewed that often, but a lot of my music starts as what I call like decompressing the day.
Yeah.
Like I make it every day and I do work on it every day, but a lot of it is like, you know, I come home and it's like downloading my day into beat format.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so so it's kind of like, and a lot of that comes from, sorry, I bumped the mic there, but when I lived in New York and I had to take the train for an hour
Mm-hmm.
both ways. You have to tolerate so much of life living in New York, but I would get home and be like, I need to be creative
Yeah.
and get rid of all this energy. And, you do it for a month and have like 15 to 30 songs and
Yep.
then use that as kind of filter through those to see what I like. But yeah, a lot of it is like decompression music. I think it's funny. It's so chill at the end of the day that it's like, that's what I want to put out into the world.
Yeah.
But it's also how people consume it. Like they'll write a super introspective and chill thing to this song.
Yeah, and then
that
somebody
was
will
made-
listen to it and they will feel chill afterwards.
Yeah.
So in a way, not only did you put that out into the world, you put it out in a way that other people can piggyback off of it and do their own thing to put it out into the world.
Yeah.
Or put it into their own world after that because of someone else.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
It's cool to see it, to put that into the world and then have it received back like that. I'm like, this is how you know music is universal, because somebody is like, that's what I needed to hear right now.
Exactly. Also, I just love downloading my day into the beat. Like that. I mean, that's yours to take now.
Yeah,
but
but that's
do
how-
something with that. That's something you could do something with. That's really good. I love that.
Yeah, it's like the visual that I think of when I sit down. I'm like,
Like as you as you feel yourself getting like feeling better, you're just watching the little bar build, just burp, 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 burp.
yeah, it's like compress down into this beat and then on to the next thing.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right, let's go ahead and move on to some hypothetical questions.
All right.
And these are all, excuse me, these are all sky's the limits, that there's no wrong answers. So just have fun with it. And this first one, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So we will ask you again, as the producer, if you could work with any one artist who's currently alive, and if it's a member of a group or band, you have to pick one person. But who would you pick and how would you work with them?
It's so funny. Because I've watched some of your other interviews and I'm always like, I know he's going to ask this and I have to think about this. Yeah. And I go back and forth between like a lyricist or something and another producer. But I think just Andre 3000.
Okay.
I think he's somebody who like I've just always liked a lot of his verses, and without even realizing it, I'm just like, oh, I think of his lyrics a lot. But I've always wanted to like shape it in a way that like fit to some of my beats. Because when I go back and listen to favorite Outkast songs, it's often like super down tempo, mellow stuff, and I'm just like, I would love to like just 5 songs, just get him and be like, write whatever you want to these beats and see if we can make it work. But
Hell yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I could say that. And then subsequently, who's a local artist that you're aware of, but you haven't gotten to work with yet, but you're like, I know they would sound good over my beats.
Yeah, well, it's funny because me and Mike Capes have been trying, like, I've sent him hundreds of beats, and every time he sees me play live, he always sends me a list of stuff. He's like, send me these. But we have never recorded anything. And he's somebody who I'm like, yeah, like I know it'll work out one day. I hope it will, but we both know each other and we both like each other's stuff, but we've never like sat down and recorded anything. So I think that would be a fun one if we can ever find the time to do it.
Hell yeah. If you ever do, remember this interview and both of you should come back and talk about the song after you make it.
That would be fun. It'd be like manifest.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's everybody at him in the comments.
Yeah.
So it has to happen, and we can get this episode happening next month. There we go.
Make Mike pick a beat.
Everybody go onto his Spotify, run up his plays, pick the beat that you like the best, and then at him in the comments on this and say which beat you pick.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go.
I like that strategy.
That's the comment campaign for this episode for sure.
Right.
All right. And then, I guess I can't ask you the if you could perform anywhere question. Kind of a loaded one.
Yeah.
I guess it. You know what? Let's ask it anyway.
Yeah.
Let's ask it anyways. If you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or power or stability, lineup, anything like that. And you can, I mean, you could make it a bill of like all rap artists and just DJ the whole time. You could just decide to take over all of their spots. You could be like, Ludacris, I got this one. Now when I move, they move. But like, where would you do it? And what would you do?
Oh man, I think just for and I've never been there, but every footage, whether it's a comedy special or concert, Red Rocks.
Yes.
Always
we are 3 for 3.
Yeah.
Red Rock has shown up out of nowhere as like I wonder what recently happened to like inspire it for people. What have you seen recently from Red Rock?
Well, I know. So, Fabi Reina, who is part of Savila, which is a band here in Portland, went on tour with Sylvan Esso, and they ended the concert. They ended the tour at Red Rocks, and I remember seeing photos from it and being like, "That looks amazing."
Yep.
And then I think I saw Bill Burr shot a special there, and I was just like, "You can do comedy at Red Rocks.
You can do comedy anywhere."
Yeah, but it made me think like even as a backdrop, and then everyone I know who's ever seen a show there always raves about it, and I think if I could do that with a giant projection screen to like, because something I enjoy when I get the opportunity is to show, because I'm not a video artist, but I make like video collage stuff as backdrops for my work.
Yeah, visuals.
Yeah, and I think if I could get like a mega screen at Red Rocks and rock a show there, that would be like, I'd be like, I'm good after that.
Oh, hell yeah. Speaking of mega screen, have you seen the like TV dome from Las Vegas?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
That thing looks,
oh my God.
It looks fake. When I see it, I'm like, I know it exists, but it's so...
I found out about it I was watching, I don't know if you know of this duo called Sophie Tucker. They're like a cool, like electronic-y poppy girl. They're good sound. Big fan. Sophie Tucker, if you both want to be on the show, let's do it. But I saw one of their stories, and like at first I was just like, oh look, yeah, there she is, like at this concert with all these people. Oh, and you're watching U2, and then she like went like, and I was like, what is? And then after that, like, you know, the internet just algorithms you hard, and it's like, oh, Las Vegas Superdome, and I was like, I couldn't imagine.
No,
I couldn't imagine.
That would be, especially if you can see the video from inside the dome. Like if you could perform, I don't know.
Well, from what I saw, like the stage is like a circular stage, first of all, which is weird because there isn't exactly I felt like there was a bit of a behind, but I couldn't feel like enough to warrant a circular stage.
Yeah.
But there was a circular stage that they were performing on. Now, mind you, like every video I saw of them, they're like this big, but the dome just, it goes like it took so long for the camera to get from one side to the other from like the middle of it. You know what I mean? So like, I can't imagine it's one of those things where like you ever see the edge and no pun intended, because it's U2. God damn it. I'm mad about that one because that wasn't a joke. But I imagine like you have to try so hard that eventually looking at them, it's just so far past your peripheral. It has to be so incredibly immersive.
Yeah.
Like,
that would be amazing. Yeah, especially if you're a video artist, just to be like spectacle all around me while I just tap on beats.
I want to know how much it would cost to rent it to watch like a regular movie and just put on like the dumbest, like put on like Hot Rod. Best movie ever, by the way. One of my favorite movies. But like just put that on and then just be like, hey, everybody, look what we're doing. Like, oh man, what a weird dig that would be.
Yeah, I'm sure that feels like something a billionaire would do.
Well, I mean, they can't go back into the ocean anymore, so they got to do something with their money.
Right. They conquered space. Now they just need to get like gigantic orb movie something.
Exactly. All right, now we've got one last question to go for this one. This one's a fun one. I'm kind of interested to see where you go with this one, so we're going to leave it just as is for format. But if you had to do a completely different genre, and in your case, we'll just change like style altogether. Like if you had to like move to complete, like you had to like pick up an instrument in a band, be in a band of some sort, what would you pick? Oh, it has to be something you haven't done before. Sorry.
So genre and instrument, or
you know what? Let's do both.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna take the producer out of the stew.
Yeah, because I should have. You would think in all of this time that bass lines are always interesting to me, and I've never tried to learn bass guitar. And I've always thought that would be a good thing for me to learn because so much of like tapping out a bass line is never quite the same as when I hear a live bass line and the finger work and just some of the weird sounds you get out of a bass guitar. But I think if I ever was going to learn an instrument, it would be a bass guitar.
Okay.
And then genre?
Yeah, if you do completely different style.
Any genre?
Yeah, well, usually I do the caveat that it can't be something you've like done before.
Oh, okay.
But like it gets kind of gray area when you've like sampled a million things.
Oh, right.
But let's say that it has to be like a predominantly like instrument based band concept.
Okay. There's part of me that has like a like punk aesthetic. Like there's like I like the rawness of really horrible recordings. Like you can tell it's just like rage recording or something. There's parts of me that was like, I don't know what I would do in that band, but I like listening to it.
Fair. And you'd be the bass player in that?
Yeah, I'd be the struggle bass player.
I mean, that's fine. That's fine. I think if you're learning, bass can be high energy. No, it's still pretty high effort too. I was gonna say low effort, but that's not true. But no, I mean, I dig that.
Yeah.
Fun fact: I am mainly a bass player. That's like my origin instrument. So I like as soon as you said that, I was like, holy shit! Why don't more producers play bass? That's actually a really good point because that's like a dominant aspect.
Yeah. Well, the guy who taught me how to make beats on an MPC was like a heavy metal bassist.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know the genres, but he's just like that version of metal. But he said that he would listen to hip hop because it was more intricate bass lines than what he got to play in the band.
Yeah,
and then he like fully transitioned into beat making. And you could tell when you listen to his stuff, I was like, oh, the bass lines stand out. I did not pick that up from him, but he showed me how to work in MPC, and then I've just been hooked ever since. So, but even as like a possibility of coming out of one genre into another, that was like something I learned from him because he was like full on like, death metal, long hair, screamcore, whatever. I don't know what it's called, but then went into like mid tempo hip hop producer, but with great bass lines.
I mean that. Sometimes it's good to come from one place to get to the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't stress an importance on this, but I think that there's so much to be gained from going outside of your genre, like purposely trying to learn and understand the dynamic of like something that seems so far out of pocket, just because not even because you have to end up taking something and bringing it back, but because it will force you to break your mold.
Right.
Like it's good to always be putting stuff out. It's good to always be doing stuff. It's good to have a process, but there's a difference between a process and a mold. And I think that when you take the time to like experience others, because everybody has a different genre that they have at least some kind of passing interest in. You never know what you're going to find until you get into it.
Right.
Like I remember when I like started learning drums. Like as a real instrument, like I ended up getting a drum kit and everything, but the world of drummers was just like something I had never dabbled in before, and to find out like the intricacies and the discussions and the nuances and the way that they approached it and like hearing them have conversations about it, interacting with multiple drummers at once in real life, even like it changed the way I approached music forever because now I wasn't writing drums as a bass player. After, a year and a half of playing drums regularly, I was writing drums as a drummer. And it just inspired completely. Like even when I would write drums digitally still, I'd still beat on the pad.
Right.
But like now, I knew these new patterns because I had just workshopped them on a kit. Like I knew how to even mix them differently because I had heard drums. I had heard real drum. I'd sat in front of them. I knew what they responded like. Not just heard a drummer drumming and went, wow, I wonder what they do to get, like, I figured it out. And was I great at it? No. Was I acceptable at it? Probably. Did I learn so much from it? A ton. Like there's just every instance comes from another musical instant.
Yeah, that's I had a friend who was a drummer in high school, and I remember sitting, and in my mind I was like, oh, every drummer has the same kit, whatever, they all sound the same, they all do the same
cymbals.
thing. Yeah, but like the sound of the snare was like something that always was like, why does it sound so different on an album versus when I'm banging on it here? And then even knowing that he had like a whole arsenal of snares, and I was just like, I just thought they were backups in case he drummed too hard.
Yeah,
but they're all tuned differently, and I was just like,
they all respond differently.
Yeah. And so I was like, and so I think even that's like a tiny bit of like how I listen to drums is like what has reverb on it, what sounds like, you know, a wooden stick versus like a loud booming snare or something like that. So, yeah, there's something to that, but even the first genre, like honestly, the first genre of anything that got me into music making, even though again I didn't learn it, I was just super fascinated with it, was turntablism, like just scratching. I just loved it. I still love it. Just watching somebody take a drum break and like scratch it out live, and like, you know, kick and snare and scratch it out in between, or even use the sound of a scratch as the snare. It just rearranged my brain in a way. I was like, whatever this is, I love it. I'd never learned it though. But I have befriended many great scratch DJs.
Yeah.
And there's something to even like the manual drumming on a turntable I'm like just as drawn to as like banging on a real thing.
There's such an incredible art attached to that, to just be able to take like the tiniest instance of it, because like, you know, sampling is that similar art in its style where it's like you're taking the thing and manipulating it that way. But where it differs for DJs is that it literally has to happen in that instance. Like they have to know the timing of the things. They have to know the timing of the other thing. They have to understand the intricacies, and when they like turn it back one spin versus two spins, where does it start in the one? And actually, there was a recent guest on the show. It was a little while back now, but it was during the Seattle trip, DJ Vega, which shout out DJ Vega. And this guy posts like basically a reel a day of him just taking two songs and just cutting them up. And just, it's almost cool to see, because even though he's been doing this for a long time, like he's a relatively accomplished DJ, like finally starting to get noticed in places, which I think is really cool. But you can kind of tell his progression if you go back to like early ones versus now, not just like aesthetically, but like as he does it and like thinks of new ways to do it. And even when he doesn't have a video that like hits as hard as the one before, you watch the whole thing, because you're just like, what's gonna like, he doesn't just put two things together and go, all right, here's me cutting it up for 20. He like, things come in, things come out. He has like different like styles, different approaches, and he's always doing it differently, but he just gets better. He just keeps getting better. He's been doing this for years, and he keeps getting better. And so it's an art.
Oh yeah, no, I love it. But it's like nothing makes me feel nerdier than trying to talk about scratch DJs.
Yeah,
because people like you could name them all, and if no one's ever cared about scratch DJs, they don't know anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, I'm like, the Beat Junkies, DJ D Styles, Qbert, they're like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
And I'm like, their album figure, it's just,
yeah.
And they name their stuff all stupid, so it's like, you can't, they didn't really have real albums, and I was like,
you
I
just had to be there,
out.
I guess.
Yeah. I was like, but it was super inspiring to me still, and they're still active. So I'm just like, I'll listen to it and get inspired and then go make something that doesn't sound anything like it. But I'm like, it's just something about the physical manipulation of the records that I'm like, I want to do that too, even though I don't know how.
Oh, yeah.
I'll do it with samples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. Why don't you tell people what you have coming up, say like beginning of November to January.
Not a ton of shows right now. I run this event called A Beat Happening.
Mm-hmm. We'll go into that when we do the plugs time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we literally yesterday was the last one of the year. I run them February through October.
Okay, smart.
And then take the winter off.
Yeah, seasonal.
Yeah.
Wise
Well,
man.
mostly because it's impossible to book people. I've found in the winter, like November, December, everybody's...
Well, I mean, you got Thanksgiving, and then you
Yeah.
got Christmas and New Year's, and then us, we usually get some kind of poor weather in early January.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it makes sense.
Yeah, and and we do the shows on the third Sunday of every month, so that's like right when most holidays are. So I was just like, you know what, I need a break too.
Yeah,
we'll just take a break. So, so normally my month would have that in it, but that was literally the last one for the year yesterday. But the next show that I'm playing is Friends of Noise, who's like an all ages youth music program in Portland. They host a quarterly open mic for youth called Ya Heard. And they asked me to come like play beats and talk to the crowd about how I make stuff.
Oh, cool.
And like maybe do a cypher, like play a bunch of beats and let rappers get up and rap over it. That's October 24th at Portland Center Stage.
Oh, cool.
So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. I'm definitely doing it. I just don't know what.
Yeah, you'll see what it's like.
What to expect. And then Jefferson High School in Portland asked me to come, like, speak about my career with.
That's cool.
With youth, which I've definitely never done. But of the educators that work there, they were like, "You feel like you do enough stuff that they might be interested in that you could come talk to them about." I was like, "Yeah."
Well, like I was saying before too, I think it's you talk about the parts of the process and like the things that make it in the beginning. Like you talk about the bits that go into it in a really like not boring way. Like the way you talk about it has enough passion behind it that I think they're right. Like I think that kids would actually really benefit from the way that you talk about it, because you talk about what some people would look at the daunting parts as the exciting parts. Like you found the fun in the process.
Yeah.
So that like, for what it's worth, I 100% agree with them. And when's that? Can I get tickets to that one too? No.
That one's free. I think it's just I think it's December 1st.
Oh, okay.
Right before winter break. And then right now I don't have any other shows, but things pop up here and there.
Oh yeah.
So but if, follow me on Instagram is probably where I post the most. Oh,
I was going to say real quick, why don't we go ahead and have you look at the camera and tell us all the plugs and ats and things like that.
Oh, all right, cool. So if you want to follow me musically on Instagram is where I post most everything. Luvjonez Music is my Instagram. It's LUVJONEZ music spelled normally, all one word. And then I run a beat happening, which is ABEAT happening, also on Instagram and and YouTube. If you want to see all the archives of like 6 years of monthly shows, every artist video from the last 6 years is posted on our YouTube channel, also at a beat happening. So that's the things that I plug the most. All streaming platforms if you want to listen to Luvjonez. Yeah, it's out there in the world. Bandcamp, Spotify, all that stuff.
Hell yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you want to put on while you're on here?
Yeah, I mean, I will shout out my partner on a beat happening is Lee H. Tillman. He's a comedian / lots of things. But he is, he's held me down for this whole year. He moved back to Portland and offered to help because he's played there a few times. So that's been really helpful to have like a professional host for things while I run around in the background. So shout out him for real.
Oh yeah.
The whole A Beat Happening community, it's really dope to have built that over the 6 years. Too many people to name off, but I try to credit everybody in the post when I share them. And my friend Brian Brunt, who never comes out of his house, but has helped me musically over the years, and we're working on a project for maybe next April, I think. So,
oh yeah,
shout out him for real. I'm trying to get him out of the house to perform at some point next spring.
Yeah, if he wants to come be on the show, he's welcome to be.
Yeah, that might be fun. He definitely never gets interviewed.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's enough for now, I think.
Hell yeah.
Actually, 2 more. Friends of Noise for sure. They've run audio on all the Beat Happening shows.
Mhm.
And Desert Island Studios has filmed all my projects for like the last 2 years. So I really appreciate that too.
Oh, yeah. All right, now we've got one last question to go. But before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second.
All right.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all of the things. You know, I don't know what they are, but you do. And I trust you. With that being said, the final question. What is your guilty pleasure song?
Oh, man. I forgot you asked this too.
Yeah. And remember, just have fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like recently?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I mean, if you hadn't asked recently, I would have assumed it was timeless.
What song, man? I've had so long to think about this, and now I'm like freezing up. There's, I don't know if I'm guilty though.
I mean, I need to change the name of it. That's coming soon, but it's not that you feel guilty about it. But it's one of those ones where it's like, you're like, I don't care if y'all don't love this because I love this.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't, whatever. Guilty pleasures are like that. They don't make sense in your any of the things you listen to. But there's a song called, what is it? Caribou is the name of the artist.
I love Caribou.
Yeah, I think it's oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
Can't Without You or something. I don't know. There's like an extended mix from his album, and I listen to that a lot while I'm driving.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I can like hum it, and I can't even remember the title. It's something like Can't Be Without You or something like that.
I'm pretty sure that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really cool answer. Holy shit. I haven't heard anybody say Caribou in a while.
Yeah. I saw him live at Roseland years ago. And
I bet that was amazing.
Yeah. And he ended the show with that song. It was felt like a 10-minute intro. And then he finally.
And then it's just over and you're like, oh, that was the song.
And I was like, well, it's always been kind of like fresh in my mind. But I'm like, I went with someone I was dating at the time, and I was like, that's the one takeaway is I was like, I still remember that song. And so I'll play it, I don't know, several times a month driving around.
Oh yeah. I'm going to put on Caribou after this now. Hell yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. People always ask me what mine are, so I'm trying to keep one on deck now. So I'm just going to start saying it. Today's guilty pleasure song from Jimmy is, oh my God, what is it? Is it Flamingo by Kira Benito.
Oh wow. I don't know.
It is the silliest, poppiest, goofiest, upbeatiest song in the world. It's just so silly and it's so cute.
It's way too long to have to go further into, but there's a producer who's produced so many mega pop hits, but Max Martin is somebody that, whether you know it or not, you probably like one of his songs. But I remember watching like somebody made like a YouTube video of like every Max Martin hit, and I was like, wow, that dude like owned all of the 90s and 2000s.
Oh yeah.
And he's still making every song you think you like on the radio is probably him.
I mean, once you get to that point.
Yeah, it's like his whole discography is guilty pleasures. I was just like, oh my God, I know all these songs.
Well, there we go. Now y'all know where to go to get some suggestions.
Yeah, go hit up Max Martin anything. You'll be stuck.
Hell yeah. All right, we're going to go ahead and get on out of here. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Hell yeah.
Fun.
Hell yeah. This has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jam Box. I'm Jimmy.
I'm Luvjonez.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap.
This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Keep jamming.